have a wonderful talk prepared tonight. I was reading something earlier today, this story, and I've actually heard Sifu Brown tell it a few times. It's one of my favorite stories. And the story is about two frogs, and you guys may have heard it, some of you. Two frogs are hopping along, and there's kind of a fat, lazy frog and like a slim, martial arts frog. And they're hopping along, and they both fall into a pail of milk. And they're like, uh-oh, we're going to drown. And they both start, swimming to try to get away, but they're just circling around in this pail of milk, basically. And they're going and going and going and going, and they can't find anywhere out. It's too slippery for them to climb up. They can't jump out. And then the lazy frog just decides to quit. He's like, we're not getting out. I give up. And he just drowns. Sad story. There's more. So the other frog sees his buddy go down, and he says, not me. I'm gonna do this. And he just keeps going. And he just keeps swimming around, and he's getting exhausted, and his legs are not working like hardly at all, and he's just about to sink down. His legs are just like paralyzed. And then he just hits something solid. And you realize he's churned the milk into butter from all of his effort. And then he just jumps out the pail and on his way. Say goodbye to his friend. And it's a brilliant illustration, because isn't that really how it goes? Like, we will hit times, this talk is about a strong will. We will hit times where we are sure, positive, that we've got nothing left and that we're done. And I don't necessarily mean life or death. I mean, like, even in class here, I can't do one more push-up. Sifu, it's impossible. I swear to you, it's impossible. And then if I said, okay, well, this is actually the last push-up, so then you would go, okay, I can do one more, right? But it's kind of the thought of, oh my God, I've got so much more to go. You know the worst count for you to hear when we're working out and I'm counting off basic technique, and I go from 1 to 10, and then I go back to 1? That's the one that kills people, because then you think, I've got 10 more, are you serious? And then that's when people just drop. But if you really thought of it like, I only have 1 more, I can do this. But that's really part of the will. And I've got a few different examples and stories that I want to talk about, but really this concept of strengthening the will is huge. It's of huge importance in martial arts practice. It's of huge importance in meditation. Meditation is a strengthening of the will in some ways. And a strong will is very important for meditation. I meditated for my 2nd degree Red Sash test. And when we do the testing meditations, you're not allowed to move at all. And they get pretty long. For the my 1st degree Red Sash test, it's 2 hours long, and you're not allowed to move. You're sitting there. And it's honor system. It's not like Sifu is staring at you the whole time, but you tell him if you move, because by the time you're testing for Red Sash, you're a good person. So I had this beanbag chair that I used to sit in, this nice big beanbag chair. It's corduroy. And it was like the nicest thing. I would sit in it, and it would feel like I was just sitting on a cloud. And because it like molded perfectly I'd be kneeling, sitting in Seiza. And I sat down to meditate this time. And I had meditated on that beanbag chair several times for over 2 hours, because I knew what I was getting myself into. So I wanted to make sure that I was ready for it. And no problem, right? Well, this particular day, I'm sitting, and there are 4 or 5 other students sitting like along the wall meditating with me. The lights are out, and we're about an hour into the meditation, and my knees have just slid like in the beanbag chair. The beans are settling. The beans are settling, and the knees are moving. And I didn't recognize this until I started getting this unbearable pain in my hip that was that was so bad that I was positive that I was going to fail the test because the pain was so bad that I was about to throw up from the pain. And there were a few times where I just thought to myself, this is it. I'm going to throw up, and I'm probably going to fail the test because that counts as movement. Can't barf on your meditation part of the test. You can throw up on the other part of the test, but not in meditation. So, and that's the worst part of it, is I'm thinking to myself, this is the worst pain ever. And by the way, for the second half of the meditation, I was not meditating. I was just sitting there in pain. And now this is an interesting part, because Sifu Brown, my teacher, has said about the meditation part of the test. If you can meditate for Green Sash, it's 1 hour. If you can meditate for an hour without moving, you're either going deep, like you've made some progress in your meditation, you're really doing something, or you just have a really strong will. And really sometimes it's both, right? But either way is fine. The first half I was meditating. The second half was just pure guts. It was just like all I could do to sit there. And that should not be what your meditation is like. And sometimes it's a little bit more like that than we'd like to admit. Not that there's necessarily like a physical pain that's that bad, but there's always something, some thought or rapid series of thoughts or an entire period of time of thoughts that is telling us we have to get up. We can't do this anymore. You got stuff to do. I mean, your brain is designed to think, and so it wants you to get up and move and invent stuff and go explore, and like that's what the human brain is designed for. The human mind is not designed to sit and be still and not have thoughts. That's why meditation is so difficult. That's why they say it's the highest form of human activity, meditation, to still the mind. They say it's more difficult to still the mind than the restless wind. And it's absolutely true. If you've ever sat for any length of time, you get it. So what is will? How do we strengthen it? Think of it like going to the gym. Who's ever lifted a weight before in your life? Most of us, okay. So when you go to the gym and you lift a weight, or if you're like me, you just hate going to the gym, so just like push-ups, whatever. All of the work up to the point of exhaustion is like preparation. The actual building of the muscle, the actual work, the actual progress does not begin until you've hit exhaustion. Exhaustion is like, I can't actually move anymore. And if you're consistently going to exhaustion, you're consistently going to the point where your body can't actually do another push-up, or you can't actually do one more curl or one more squat, that's how you know that you've done something. And that's when the muscle is really strengthening. Because the next time, it's going to take a little bit longer to get to exhaustion. And then the next time after that, a little bit longer. And this is the rub. This is the tough part about the work, is that it's work. It's not easy. And strengthening of the will is the same process as strengthening of a muscle. It doesn't happen until you get to exhaustion. It doesn't happen until you get to that point where you think, where you're sure, I can't do it anymore. I can't sit for one more second. I'm going insane. I have to move. And you'll have meditations like that. Sometimes you'll have entire meditations where, like from the very beginning, you're thinking to yourself, I can't do this. This is like, I gotta stand up, move around, and come back later on and try this again. And sometimes you'll have meditation like my Red Sash meditation, where the first part was fine, and then it gets really, really difficult at the end. And both kinds of meditation are important. If you're only sitting for an amount of time that's comfortable for you, if you're only meditating to the point like before exhaustion, then you're going to stay at that level with your meditation, with your mindfulness, with your ability to still the mind, with your ability to sit and strengthen your will. But as soon as you get to that point, and you'll notice this, it's really incredible. For about a year, I meditated every day for 20 minutes. And I would get right up to 20 minutes, And then it was like somebody just like flipped on the lights and let the circus come into the room. It was like impossible for me to sit anymore. I knew exactly when it was 20 minutes. I would get that feeling. I would open my eyes, and it was to the minute every single time. After a couple of months, I would know exactly when it was 20 minutes. And it was really interesting because I basically trained myself to, okay, right when we get to that point, we know it's 20 minutes and we're done, so then we stop. But then I realized, well, wait a minute, that's not really growing in my meditation. That's not really strengthening the will. That's not doing anything beyond what I've already done. And a regular meditation of 20 minutes a day is great. It is a wonderful place to start, and even less than that is great, but you have to build on to it eventually. So then I got to 20 minutes, and I knew it was 20 minutes because I felt like I had to get up or I was about to jump out of my skin. And that was when the work started, and that was when I told myself, no, you're sitting. We're not listening to the monkey mind. We're just going to stick it out. And then the amazing thing happened. My mind would quiet back down again because it knew no matter how much it bitched and moaned, it wasn't going to get its way. Like, I'm not giving into it to you. And so that's when it quiets. And then it'll come back up out of that at some point, and then it's kind of your choice. Okay, so now it's really been enough time and I'm done. Or you can say, I'm going to set this timer, and this timer is going for X number of minutes, and you will have times during that meditation where you feel like I must not have set the timer right. It's definitely been more than 20 minutes. It's impossible that this is not time. And then if you don't have a strong will, you're going to open your eyes and just peek at the phone and be like, it's been 5 minutes. Are you serious? And then you come back and you just start like angry at yourself for a few minutes, and then you go and then you settle back down, and then you're like, okay, now definitely it's been 20 minutes. I definitely must not have set the timer. There's something wrong with it. And you peek again. It's been 10 minutes. What? So part of it is you have to learn how to trust your timer, so get something that you know works. But part of it is the will. And if you go into a meditation or you go into practice or you go into anything difficult with that expectation, and in fact you're seeking that out, then you're going to get to that point of exhaustion, and you're going to keep going to the point where you're actually building a stronger will. And it is so necessary because take martial arts practice. Martial arts practice doesn't go like this. It's not like you start here and then just like every class you get a little bit better, and your experience of yourself is like, yeah, I'm getting better, I'm getting this is great, and then you just keep going until black sash, and then you just keep going after that, and it's just like honky-dory and wonderful. That does not happen. Your practice is going to go like this. Like, I feel terrible, I can't do anything right now, and then you're like, ooh, I got this technique, I'm pretty good at that front kick, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm the best person in the world, and then you realize how awful you really are, and then you're back down here again, and it goes like this, right? And you don't need a strong will when you're up here. What you need is recognition that it's about to be down here. When you're down here is when you need the strong will, right? And that is just life. That is the nature of our existence. That's duality. That's human experience is this. Human experience is not this, it's not this, it's this. So your will is one of your strongest tools. It's one of the absolute most important things. And meditation as well, because meditation also goes like this. And I mean, in the course of one meditation, you'll have times when you're deep and calm and peaceful, and times when you're coming out of it and you have to just gut it out and say, no, we're still going. And your meditation practice, like over time, you're going to feel like there are times when you're really making progress, and you're going to feel like you're going backwards sometimes. You're going to feel like actually when your mind gets to the point where you recognize how many thoughts you've actually been having the entire time, you're going to feel like, wait a minute, I'm getting worse. I've had an entire year of time where I thought, I'm definitely getting worse at meditation. There's no way that I'm getting better, because my experience of it was like I have so many thoughts, I'm thinking so much. My mind I'm going insane. And then I just keep remembering what Sifu Brown told me. He's like, that is a necessary part of it, because like you're humming along at this level and you feel like I'm getting this. Like you feel like I'm okay. Like I'm at this level and I can handle this. And then your understanding or your ability or your recognition of your thoughts, your mindfulness jumps up a little bit. And now you're down here with like, how long can I sit, for example, and you're looking up here and you're like, oh no, what's this? And so then you have to climb up and get to that point. Well, it doesn't actually look like this. What it looks like is this, because part of you is up here looking back down, right? This happens in your martial arts practice as well. So the will is necessary to get you through this. And I swear I had something else. No. Oh. So it's a very interesting cycle. And the stronger will feeds an ability to meditate for longer. And an ability to meditate for longer feeds a stronger will. So you want to use your meditation in this way. Like, I don't want to sit there when I'm meditating and have thoughts and think about, like, this is so nice that I'm strengthening my will. Just know that it's happening. And use it as an inspiration to get yourself to sit. And that's sometimes like the whole battle, is just inspiring yourself enough to actually sit. And I don't even mean to sit for a certain amount of time. I just mean like to sit in the first place. Right? I mean, there are days when you feel like this is the last thing that I want to do, and that's the most important time to sit. But you'll recognize that as you're meditating, you hit that point where it's very difficult. And like I said, that's really when the work begins. And what's happening on the other side of that is the will strengthening. And what you're going to have is sometimes you're going to feel totally fine about meditating. Sometimes you're going to feel like, this is all I want to do for the rest of my life. I wish I could just sit here forever. And then there are going to be times when it could not be more of the opposite, right? But when it's the opposite and you refuse to stand up, you refuse to give in to that thought that tells you, we got to stop. When you do that, you're building the will. And then your will is there on those days when your meditation is not there. So you can think of your ability to meditate and your ability to have a strong will, or the strength of your will, as almost like two sides of a coin, or like they're intimately connected in this way. And the more you do one, the more you have the other. Because on those days when you're just not feeling the meditation, or on those days when your mind is just completely going crazy, that's when sometimes the best you can do is sit and just force yourself to sit. We don't want our meditation to be that way. We want our meditation to just be nice and easy and just like let the thoughts go. But it's not going to be that way every time. So what I invite you to do tonight as we sit, and on an ongoing basis, is to sit with the intention of sitting, not moving at all, because I'm going to tell you when the time is up, so you don't have to worry about the timer. You know that I'm not going to fall asleep. I'll tell you when we're done. Sit with the intention of being completely still, and sit with the intention of strengthening your will in this way. Your thoughts are going to have a tendency to wander, because that's what thoughts do. Your mind wanders. Your mind creates thoughts from the sounds that you hear, from the sensations that you have, from whatever, right? And so use every single thought that you recognize as an opportunity. The thought is not the enemy. You think of the thought as the enemy, and your experience of meditation is going to be awful. You think of the thought as an opportunity to strengthen the will, an opportunity to go back to the breath, an opportunity to be more mindful. There's a great chapter in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, this book that we have in the lobby, where he talks about the mind weeds. And I'm not a gardener, and I'm not sure that this is how gardening works, but he says that if you find weeds in your garden, you pull them out and then you bury them so that they become nourishment for the other plants. I think for some weeds, they're just going to grow back up again. But the idea is the weeds are not the enemy. The weeds are an opportunity for nourishment, just like your thoughts that come up are an opportunity to strengthen the will and an opportunity to let go. If you sit and you never have thoughts, I mean, one of two things are happening. You're enlightened or you're completely oblivious to what's actually going on and all of the thoughts that you actually have. So more likely it's the other one. So what's going to happen is you're going to sit and you're going to think. And then you use that opportunity to just let the thoughts go. And you're going to sit and you're going to think and you're going to let them go. And you're going to sit and you're going to think, and at some point it's going to almost become unbearable after a certain length of time. And then you just feed that right back into your meditation. And you just recognize this is what I'm doing. I'm getting a stronger will. And that is going to help you with everything else that you do in practice and in life. Sit comfortably.